Get a 5-minute business book review, pivotal moments with failed businesses, and hear an interview with a business disruptor who will share their $10,000 mistake. This is the Forward Motion Business Show with Professor Ken and Professor Paul A. Marino. Hit new heights. Start with Forward Motion.
Paul, let's talk about the finance part of this, and then I think that'll be a great opportunity for us, the Commissioner, to talk about the programs, the RISE program that is so exciting to talk about. Paul, tell us a little bit about, as a finance person, I mean, what should a small business do in terms of reserves to get them through a crisis? I mean, how do you factor that in?
Well, I always make a comment in my class that cash flow is like blood. You can have all the assets you want, but if you don't have cash flow, you're going to die. Right. So when I heard about the Commissioner's program, I was very excited because it seems to me, I'm really anxious to hear more of the details. I read up on it, but most of the programs that are coming out from the government are payroll protection and things like that, which are fine. They're great to have that collaboration. But in my mind, the small business needs a revolving credit. Where can I go when I need that credit to get me through those peaks and valleys of my sales curve? So I think one of the great things that's coming out of this unfortunate situation is we're seeing more of a government-private collaboration. And I think government is realizing what is needed by a small business owner to be successful. And that may be the government making a guarantee to a bank to establish a line of credit or some type of financial arrangement where it's not a one-shot deal, because a one-shot deal is not going to help. I mean, it may get them through a short-term crisis, but it won't help them through the long term. And I think what we're experiencing is going to be a fundamental long-term shift of how we view government-private partnerships.
Yeah. So, Commissioner, why don't you take us through the program? And this is the RISE program, which is I guess the short for reinvesting in our small business economy, right?
And yes, we tried to come up with something.
Yeah, no, I think that's incredible. I love it. I think it's phenomenal. So please, why don't you share with our local business owners what the program is? And I know I went online and the website is RISE-Miami-Dade.com. And it's a simple two-step application process, which I think is great for a small business owner. So why don't you please go ahead and tell us about the program and how is that going to help us?
Well, it's interesting. Remember way back when PPP was first announced in the first round, and it became extremely clear in South Florida that our small businesses had been shut out of that process. And in part, small businesses don't have those sophisticated banking relationships, right? It doesn't mean that they're unbanked. They have bank accounts, right? But they don't have that banking relationship that's given them lots of access to credit and someone they can call on a phone. And so they were shut out. So my team and I, we gathered a group of individuals from the Beacon Council, also from a number of what they call CDFIs, for anyone that doesn't know what that is, Community Development Financial Institutions. And these are community lenders that work in our community that are used to working with small businesses. And let's be clear, like in Miami-Dade County, 80% of our businesses have less than 10 employees. Mm. So if you think the federal government's PPP was designed for them, like it wasn't. So we knew we needed to design something that could get access to capital to some of these smaller businesses. And that's where the idea for the RISE Fund was out. And as with most good ideas, it's always a good idea to search around and try to steal from people who've already come up with the idea.
Inspired. You got inspired. You didn't steal it. You were inspired by
other communities. And many other communities had a revolving loan fund specifically designed to make sure that their small businesses had access to capital. And so that's what we did at the county. We started the RISE Fund. We injected $25 million that came from the CARES Act funding to start the fund. The idea behind this fund is to loan money to companies that have less than 25 employees, including 1099 employees, right? A lot of small business models, hair salons, barbershops, they don't have direct employees. Everyone's kind of an individual contractor, but it's still a good business.
Right.
So that's the idea. Help our small businesses get access to capital and make those loans, connect those businesses to the community lenders who are used to loaning to small businesses. So they know what to look for in a 10-person company or in a 12-person company in the way that a Wells Fargo or the big guys don't know how to do that. That's not their business model. This is their business model. So the Dade Credit Federal Unit, the Dade Federal Credit Union is our administrator of the fund. So they're officially in charge, and all of the applications will be vetted by them. But then your small business will be connected with one of these CDFI community lenders, because the idea is that they don't just loan you money, but that they also involve you in what we were just talking about, the programs around business planning, communications planning, and disaster planning. So we opened the fund for applications last Monday. We're up to about 850. And then, of course, what we're trying to do is get other funders. We have philanthropists that are interested and added into this fund, and we also have some of the big banks who do like to lend to small businesses, but again, they prefer to do it through community lenders. And so we have a number of big banks that we're expecting that will infuse capital in this, and it will exist forever in Miami-Dade County. So it's very exciting.
What a great program. And we're so happy that you recognize there's a need there. And I think it was well stated. Listen, it's the federal government has one level, and there's different levels of businesses. But you're right. Miami-Dade has the whole country. Miami-Dade specifically has a large population of small business owners that don't even, I don't even know. And I did apply for some of those loans myself as a small business owner. It could be daunting, and it could be intimidating in some cases too. And as a small business owner, you don't know if you're there or not. And there's all kinds of ups and downs there. And it's so good to be involved. And the local community banks is one of the most important relationships that you can have as a business owner, not only because they're a bank, but they are connected to the business community because everybody works together. And that's so important. Give us a sense, if you could, on the application process. Can you tell us more about that? I went online to the website, and again, the website is RISE-Miami-Dade.com. That's RISE-Miami-Dade.com. And it looked like it was a pretty simple process. You put in the information, and then you get connected with the community bank, and the community bank takes it from there and starts working with you to see how we could get funded, right?
We have a few requirements. The business, because it's Miami-Dade County funding through the federal government, the CARES Act, it's our county's money. Business has to be located in Miami-Dade County. We're looking to make sure that the business has been in operation for at least 2 years, because again, we're trying to make sure they had a good business model. We know they can survive post-COVID, that they have not declared bankruptcy either in that 2-year or 3-year, in a 3-year period. So again, this was a good business. So they may be struggling through COVID, but we know they're going to be a good business when they come out on the other end, and that they have less than 25 employees. We're also working with credit scores that are different from what the big banks work with, looking at credit scores at 575, which are typical for successful small businesses.
Right.
But sometimes the bigger banks are looking in the 600, 650 range. And so, again, that's why it's important. These community lenders, they can look deeply into your little business model and determine, do we think this is someone that really could use this capital to grow and thrive. And you do not have to prove that you've had any impact due to COVID. So let's say you are a business that, quite frankly, if you could get access to a small loan, you could expand your business right now, right? And that's very unique. Most money now is only going out for COVID issues, and we've got tons of other programs for that. But in this case, if you are successful in your business now and you can hire other people, if you could get more capital, you could also apply that way as well.
That's great. And I think that's important because there are, yeah, we know the good and the not so good around us, but there are businesses that are still thriving, which is great to see and so great to hear. So if you need growth, funding for growth, then this will be a great opportunity to do that. And don't be shy as a business owner to do that. If you're growing and you need to grow, yeah, I know it might be not so positive all around us, but there are tons of companies that are growing right now, small and large, and there's a history of successful businesses that have come out of crisis, and this is the time to grow. If you can do it, then let's do it. You'll not only support your business, but you'll support another employee or two, and you'll help the community, and you'll take that next step forward. Paul, what's your thought on funding and this program for our local business?
Well, I thank the commissioner for being so proactive and keeping her eye on the small business community. One of the things that really caught my attention, I'd like her to elaborate it on a little bit if she would, is that when I first read about the program, it was a revolving credit. You don't see a lot of revolving credits coming out. And by a revolving credit, we mean that it's not a one-time deal. I mean, you have this line of credit, and correct me if I'm wrong, and once you draw it down and pay it back, then it's still accessible. So it's what really attracted me towards the program. It's not a one-shot fix, but it's more, seems to me, to be a continuous addressing of the problem. So Commissioner, if you could elaborate on that, I would appreciate it.
Yeah, so it's revolving in two ways. If a business is paying back, they could get access again. There's no limit on just one-time access. It's also revolving, and if you pay it back and you don't need it anymore, that those funds would be available for other small businesses going forward. And so that's kind of my goal. I'm hoping over the next 3 to 4 months to raise additional capital into the fund so that it's not all CARES related money, but that we are really building what I'd like to see is a $50 or $60 million revolving loan fund that's out there for small businesses in our county. And we made it flexible. We put a policy committee in charge. And so the rules right now, quite frankly, are really designed to, they think about COVID. But we know that policy committee, which is made up of very competent, smart finance people and business people, in the future, a year from now, 2 years from now, if they find that they need to change the loan amounts and that they can give more loans or less, et cetera, they're able to adapt to what does become the new normal for us rather than our COVID.
The abnormal. I love it. It's the abnormal. We're going to use that forever. The abnormal. No. You're right. This is great. I mean, it's a wonderful opportunity. And, we talked earlier about how do we soften the blow of crisis, and Commissioner, you mentioned a few crises. It's not just the pandemic, which we're all facing on a personal and business level right now throughout the world, really, not just here in the US and definitely not down here in Florida. But this is good because, listen, the cash flow, like Paul said, is important, but you need to have funding in order to take the next step, or maybe just to get you to the next step. And access to funding is a big part of any business. And this program is wonderful because the way you're presenting it, it's not just a today program, but you're recognizing, we need it today, but it's a program that's going to be there, providing, it sounds like it will be successful, and then the funds will be there, and it's revolving. It has all the elements of successful needs for business. And I think this is what we need as business leaders here in the community, because listen, you can't, cash is king, and you have to have that money in order to build business. So we really appreciate that.